Welcome to Shovelware Diggers. Our dig team is currently excavating the Softkey Shareware 2000 Hit Games 2 CD collection. You can find a link in the video description containing the entire directory structure of this archive. It's week 40, and this is what our diggers have for us today. For more information on how to join the dig team, simply head on over to the Patreon page linked in the video description. Now without further ado, let's begin. First up, we have a team dig from renderer and a new digger, Seth Tierney, who've dug up WINGAMES /educate /GETALIFE. Considering the fact this is in the educate folder, well, also the fact that there's not a lot here, I'm trying to figure out what this would even be. We've got a readme and a help file. Conway's game. Oh, this is just a replication of the life algorithm. It's probably what we've got here. Yeah, it just says Conway's Game of Life. Or Conway's Life. And wow, that goes slow. So it is a life algorithm, but it's a slow one. It's got pretty colors. I'm guessing the colors have to do with... Actually, I'm not sure what they would do with. Okay, so once a cell's been set, it starts to go through different colors if it continues to stay set. And ultimately ends on purple if it's been set long enough. So it's basically a colorized version of the life algorithm from the looks of it. And I can plop in cells as well, just by clicking. I can make it tiny, which doesn't really help the speed any. I can make them huge. Pattern truncated, too large for screen. Oh well. Oh, it's simply, okay, it can go faster. It was just timed to slow speed. So for anybody who doesn't know, the Game of Life, as it were, is or Conway's Game of Life. It's basically just an algorithm where, let me stop the generation here. We have a whole bunch of cells on a grid. And just to demonstrate some of the different potentials here, every cycle in the Game of Life, all the cells are checked. And any cell that has at least 2 or 3 next to it will stay alive. And so the cell will continue to exist. But if the cell doesn't exist yet, then it needs 3 to come into existence. And it functions from 8 directions. So this creates some interesting dynamics, as you can see. So if 3 like that will sort of like do this sort of weird spinning sort of thing. And the reason that happens is because during any one cycle, these cells to the sides of it are touching 3, whereas the ones up top are only touching 1. So those disappear, and those appear, and the one in the middle is always touching 2, so it stays in place. I'm probably doing a really bad job of explaining this, but it leads to some other interesting dynamics too. Like you can see these shapes here are stable. They don't change, even when we've got the algorithm going, because every cell in the shape is touching 2 or 3 other cells, while every cell around it isn't touching at least 3, or only 3, because if it's touching less than 3, nothing will happen. If it's touching more than 3, nothing will happen. But now if I put a cell right here, well, I suddenly destroyed that little square there. And then all kinds of potential things can happen too. Like if I put the cell here instead, suddenly that happens. I can create another one there. But if I add one here, I'm sort of like changing the shape of it until I accidentally destroy it and turn it into 2 more of those. Or if I put one here, that turned it into that. Put one here, it just destroys it. So there's all kinds of weird and interesting things you can do with the life algorithm. I've actually, there's another video on my channel, which is actually one of my old video blog videos when I was still doing that thing, for the brief amount of time I was doing that for. And I actually went over some programs. I actually made a life algorithm program that was actually able to detect stable states after doing a whole bunch of random random generating of the field, and then once it discovered a stable state, it would actually sort of scan it and tell you what kind of shapes are on the field. That was kind of a neat thing. And it seems you can actually create patterns and stuff and save them. That's kind of cool. The only other feature it seems to have here is being able to show a grid, but that's really distracting. So yeah, if you just plop a whole bunch of cells down, you just hit start, it'll do its thing. But you can do all kinds of neat things with this. And I just noticed it actually seems to be wrapping around the edges. So you've got this little guy here moving along, and he's probably going to hit that, and, well, there he goes. So yeah, there's really not too much more to say about something like this. It actually works really decently, considering what it is. You can resize the window however you want, which is good. I wonder if it'll run actually at a decent speed if you have it at like the smallest cell size and just scatter cells everywhere. Let's just see. Okie dokie. That should be enough cells. Let's see how fast this runs. Oh, it actually still runs at a decent speed, so that means it's been optimized really well. Anyone trying to do this kind of thing with an unoptimized routine is probably going to end up with a lot of lag trying to make it work. In fact, running on an older computer, this probably would not run this fast. But anyways, that's Conway's Game of Life, and this particular version was made by Dave Crawford. So yeah, just another version of the Game of Life. There's a lot of these out there, so if this even looks even remotely interesting, dealing with these sort of algorithms and stuff, you should definitely look into this, because this kind of stuff's just really fun to mess around with. Even though practicality, in terms of just practical usage, there's not really a whole lot. It's just fun. Next up, Anton Panetta's dug up DOSGAMES /arcade /BLOCKMAN. With a name like that, this is probably going to be a very basic game to some extent. B-Man 1. Oh, it's a slow game. Well, we're definitely going to run into a lot of these as we're going through here. BLOCKMAN 1. Shareware version. I think I have played this before, and I think I hate it, but we'll see. Instructions. Yeah, this is looking familiar. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom named Bentangle, ruled by King Triangulos. The king loved to play with blocks ever since he was introduced to them in his childhood. When his daughter, Princess Pentagwin, came of age to marry, King Triangulos devised a brilliant plan to select a worthy husband. The king called all the best masons to his castle in order to construct 17 rooms. Blocks were placed in each room to help suitors reach the doorways, but the rooms were constructed in such a way that great ingenuity would be required to complete them. BLOCKMAN, a commoner in Bentangle, was in love with the princess, so he went to the castle to win her hand. After entering the king's very first room, BLOCKMAN became overwhelmed by the challenge ahead of him. Maybe you can help BLOCKMAN overcome his challenge and meet his true love. Yeah. This is gonna go about as well as you might expect. So the basic goal of the game is you're trying to get through these different rooms, but you can actually climb up blocks, and you can also pick up blocks and drop them. So here's the first level. It's actually running a little fast right now. Let me turn the cycles down. So yeah, basic goal, pick up blocks, put them down, and get to the exit. And then crazy effects. So the ultimate goal is to get through all the different levels here. And when you get through the different levels, you get an IQ score. So right now, we're a vegetable. Cucumber who enhances salads. Okay then. Now we go on to the next level. So yeah, it's basically a puzzle game. The controls do take a little bit of getting used to, because you're constantly having to use the down button to both pick up and drop, when your instinct might be to use up, the up arrow instead of the down arrow. And we actually have a cutscene. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. He's not throwing those darts so well. Oh, gee, you could throw better than that. Come on, third time's a charm. Seriously? Yeah, I'd give up before you actually hurt someone. You're crazy. He's crazy. I don't trust this guy anymore. Because especially since now he's a numbskull, who's also a fruitcake and inedible food. Okay. Like, I mean, here's an example of a level where if you don't do it right, you're gonna get yourself stuck right from the start. It's actually kind of hard to commentate on this while I'm playing it, partly because of the PC speaker music, or sound effects I should say. There is actually a lot of repetition, in a sense, with this game. But overall, it's actually a fairly decent puzzle game. It's very basic, and yet it takes the mechanics it has and actually does some stuff with them. I forget when exactly the game starts to get really challenging, but so far the puzzles have been pretty tame. But then I'm only on the third level. The undo feature only lets you undo one move. Oh well. So anyways, that was BLOCKMAN. Wow. That's unusual. I hit escape, and it just put me right back to the DOS prompt. Usually with a solo title, when you try to quit, it, like, takes, like, half a minute to get out of the program, but... Or wait, what? Oh, it's the boss key! Escape is the boss key, and all it does is bring up a fake command prompt, which doesn't really do anything. But what... It still has the character limit, though, for the DOS command prompt. That's the weirdest boss screen ever. Anyways, let's act... Oh, and he swears when you quit. Okay, then. So yeah, that's BLOCKMAN 1. It's not a bad puzzle game. So if this is your kind of thing, then I'd check it out. And our last game for today comes from Matthew Belshin, who's dug up DOSGAMES / Thieves. Kind of curious to see how a card game is going to play out with a name like Things? The directory's called Thieves, and yet the executable's called Things? Really? Things.txt. Things. Wait. Is this a Windows program? This is a Windows program. Once again, Windows game filed under a DOSGAMES folder. Go figure. Okay, where was this thing? Cards... Thieves. Come on, there it is. Which is actually Things for some reason. Help on 40 Thieves and Kings corners? So do we have two games in the same executable? Thieves and Kings, version 1.1, 1992 by Paul DeWolf. Version may be copied and distributed freely, but not be sold, altered, etc. He wants $20 for this. So this better be one of the best card games I've ever played. Okay, so Thieves and Kings. Which doesn't maximize that well, so we'll just leave it in the little window there. So, wow, that's interesting. It's a card game that actually has the Jokers in it. You don't see that often for solitaire-type games. Which I'm assuming this is, but I guess we'll see in a second. Interesting. So deal Thieves, deal Kings. Oh, it is two completely different games. Interesting. So let's actually see how these play. Let's do Thieves first, since that's where we're at here. So, rules. Okay, the rules are kind of interesting. So right now I've got this 6 here. The idea is to take all the cards off of here, but you can only take from the bottom of each one of these columns. And right here you see there's a 6. We have to take either a 7 or an 8. So, take this 8. Can't we? See, it's actually a fairly simple idea. And if you can't take anything off, then you have to click the middle card. and then continue on the quest to taking all the cards. So this is actually a really simple game. Until you get into a situation like this where we could take the 2 or the 4. Yeah, take the 4, because then we can go back down like that. Now you can't wrap around to kings, unfortunately, or vice versa. If you get up to the kings, you can't wrap around to the ace, so that's kind of unfortunate. Oh, we got a joker. So when you have a joker, they can be put at any... Basically, they're a wild card, as you would imagine. So we could say, take the king. And I actually didn't want to take that king. I wanted to take that king to get the joker that was there. Whoops. Can I undo? There's no undo. Oh, well. Oh, now we can take the king. Then get that joker. And then say... Ooh, we should take a card that lets us continue to take more cards. Yeah, and we're stuck. So apparently I got 116 points. Switch? Oh, switch just switches you to the other game. So the Kings mode, let's see how this plays. Okay, I think I've played a game like this before. The idea is that you're trying to make sets of 10, or sets that add up to 10. But you have to be careful as you're placing the cards, because certain cards can only go in certain spaces, specifically the face cards. The kings have to go into the corners, the queens have to go on the sides, and the jacks have to go at the top and bottom. Or I might have the queens and jacks mixed up, but... In the middle it can be anything, but you're trying to make sets of 10. So when everything is said and done, you should have an empty deck with all these parts filled and nothing in the middle. That's the goal. Let's see how well we can do. So here, I have 2 5s, so I can go like... Whoops. How do I actually take them off? Oh, you can't actually take the cards, remove the cards from the board until the board is filled. God damn it. So that's the tricky part there, is that there's a bit of random chance here, in that if you end up... Whoops. I completely closed up. Because if you get dealt a card that you can't put down, then you're kind of screwed. Okay, so now that I've laid out the board here, we need to start removing pairs, or sets of 2 cards that add up to 10. Which, do we even have any? We got 3s and 7s, so... Okay, so now we have to start pulling cards off again. Damn it. See, it's kind of annoying, because you just have to... as you're filling the cards in, you just have to have the last one come up that just happens to be the one. Like, I could have put that ace here where the king would normally go, and if this was a king, I'd be screwed, but since it's a queen, I'm screwed because I put it there. How are you supposed to get through this? This is like totally luck. Okay, it's not totally luck, because you can actually... You can gauge how likely a king or a jack or a queen is going to show up just from how many of them you've put down. But you're still relying on luck to get you through those parts of the... just getting everything out there. Like right now, all I have left are the queen, jack, and king spots. If any of the next 3 cards are a king, jack, or a queen, well, it's going to be the next 2 cards after this one. I mean, I could end up screwing myself. Like, I put one there. Okay, I got lucky there. So, now we gotta start removing stuff here. We're somehow surviving this time, but... Actually, it looks like we're gonna get stuck in a different way. Because now the cards that we have on the board don't... Yeah. I can't say I like that one. I did give this a few tries. The Thieves mode definitely feels like you have a lot more control over it. And you sort of see yourself getting to that point. Like, there's gameplay here. You can actually get somewhere without relying on luck so much. Whereas the other one really feels like it does boil down to luck. Actually doing pretty decently this time around. I've almost got the board cleared. Now, there is something that's supposed to happen when you do clear the board. I don't remember exactly what, but... There you go. It actually restocks the board. And from what I understand, when you do this, it removes a joker from the deck as well. So the idea here is that this game can actually go on for as long as you could take it, since you're constantly refilling, you're constantly redoing the whole board every time you exhaust the board. So it's all about just getting as many points as you can by doing this as many times in a row as you can without getting stuck. See, this feels more like a game. That Kings mode was definitely just a luck box. Despite the fact it did have some strategy, but too little strategy to make that big of a difference. This one actually feels like a decent game. So, would I pay $20 for this 2-card game program in 1992? That's a tricky one. See, here's the thing. If it was just this particular game right here that I've got on the screen right now alone, $20 would be too much. But it has the other game. But the other game is worthless. So, I don't know. I think $15 for this program back when it was brand new probably would have been a little more reasonable. Like, I know that's splitting hairs. $20 is, like, not that much of a difference, really. Especially when you consider some of the other stuff that was being sold for $20. But, yeah, I think the $15 price point would have been more reasonable for this at the time. $20 is a lot, but if you really like this mode, then I guess that's not that bad, really. You have to remember that even though there were a lot of programs like this coming out in the early days of Windows, like, there weren't a lot of people who were really good at it. So, even though there's, like, no clicking and dragging, it's all clicking. Like, the fact that it works and doesn't seem to have any strange things going on, like, you can't resize it, unfortunately. So the game hasn't been coded perfectly. But it does work. So it's not bad. It's overpriced, but only slightly.